Good afternoon. This is the Devar Torah on Parshas Midbar. It's the first Parsha on Sefer Bamidbar, and to summarize it very quickly, this Parsha begins with taking a census of Jewish people, which it goes through in quite elaborate detail. These were all the men between 20 and 60, except for the tribe of Levi, who were going to be going into the army and fighting Israel's wars. And it then goes on to discuss the organization of the four camps of the different tribes, each with their own dagel, has many different meanings. In any event, after describing that and after describing all of those, it talks about the Levium and how they're going to be assisting the Kohanim in the service of the temple. It then goes through a whole genealogy of that and the Parsha. Then describes how when the Mishkan, the sanctuary, has to move from one place to the other in the desert, how the Kohanim will cover all of stuff, and after that's done, the Levium will provide for the transportation of it to the next place. And that, in summary, is the Parsha. Now, what I want to focus on here is beginning of chapter Gimel. And it says, Elu toledot Aaron v'Moshe b'yom dever Hashem el Moshe v'Har Sinai, Elu shmosam b'nei Aaron v'Bechor Nadav v'Avihu Elazar and Itamar. And so far, these are the named offspring of Aaron and Moses on the day Moshe did the day spoke with Moshe at Mount Har Sinai. These are the names of Aaron's son. It then lists them. Firstborn was Nadav, Abihu, Elazar, and Itamar. These were the sons of Aaron. It then goes on to say that Netanyahu died before Hashem when they offered an alien fire, and they had no children, Elazar and Itamar. Mitzvah during the lifetime of their father. And then it goes on to say, so the question is, why does there's a number of repetitions here? Why does there have to be that? And that's what I would like to address. This is largely based on the commentary of Rav Natan Shapira. He was the major Ashkenaz rabbi of Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, in the late 1500s into the 1600s. He was the nephew of another famous Rav who was the author of the Magali Mukot, the revelation of the deep concepts. And he was a Rav in Krakow, Poland, who had incredible knowledge of both what's going on in Olam Hazeh, this world, and Olam Haba while he was still alive. And it says on his tombstone, his uncle, that he learned directly with Eliyahu Navi. That's never been said on anybody else's Kevite tombstone. And he asked a number of questions on this Parsha, in fact, these Pesukim, and I would like to go through, look at his questions, and then he says one question he has is that Why do we have to have the mention of Aaron's sons twice? It says Aaron's sons, and then it repeats Aaron's sons in a couple of verses later, as I read. A more fundamental question: why are we mentioning this at all? The details of what happened to Aaron's sons were before. That's one question that's being raised. A second question: why do we have to know? Why does it come to? Why does it have to teach us the Tolos of Aaron and Moshe and Har Sinai? What's the chiddush in that? The special teaching, and then it gives the names of all the sons. And don't we already know that it was that it was at Har Sinai? So why is he telling us that? And we already know from elsewhere which day of the month was and which year. And if one looks at the language, it then says not of an Navi who died, singular. So the question is why in the singular? Should have been language of Rabim. That's what we have in the Pasuk and Aklimos that we read a few weeks ago. So why do we have to have that? And another question he gives is, why do we have to learn that Itamar and Elazar and Itamar served in the face of the father served his lifetime? What do we need that for? Why didn't we just say that this who served as Kohanim was Elazar and Itamar? Why do we need this extra detail? And a final question that's asked elsewhere, and he gives a very interesting answer to it, of Nathan Shapira, is it says these are the quoted says that these are toldos of Aaron and Moshe beyond the Hashem el Moshe Bar Sinai. Now, we then go on to name Aaron's 4 sons. What about Moshe? By that time, had 2 sons. Why aren't they named? And it's key, as he points, as Rav Shapiro points out, it's coming to teach a very important lesson. And what is that lesson? That lesson is to teach us that somebody can be one's child, or in this case, children. It can be biological, but it can also be if one teaches them Torah. And Moshe, in that sense, they were his Talmidim, the sons of Aaron, and therefore, in that sense, they were all of his. They were his children in a larger sense, and this is why that's what this is coming to teach us. In other words, Aaron raised them, but Moshe taught them, and teaching us that both are very significant, being a parent, but and that these, and why do we have a Vav, Moshe and Aaron, to teach that they were both in effect their teachers. And so there, in a sense, they really had 2 fathers: the father that taught them, and the father that, something we should keep in mind how important the teachers of Torah are for us and for our children. Why does it mention them in the plural? There was obviously an Avera there. Why does it mention them in the plural? And it's coming to teach us that Nadav and Abihu had fulfilled the 8th day. It's on the 8th day after the temple. And why do we then say these are names of Bnei Aaron? We already mentioned them. Because we have to repeat it, because the first thing was telling when Aaron and his sons were giving the obligations of being the Kohanim, the priests. The second time is telling us who was left. In other words, it's going after the deaths of Nadav and Abihu, and they were in effect an offering. It's teaching us that this is there's a number of answers given. One from Shapira, another one is that they were mentioned here in the singular because effectively they acted, Hashem sanctifies himself with those who are close to him. And it is coming to tell us that in the additional message. And why does it mention the language, the Kohanim, Meshukim, serving? He explains it's giving another meaning here. And it says, the anointed Kohanim, whom he inaugurated the minister. Why does it have to mention that? It just could have said they were serving. It's coming to teach us there's going to be additional Kohanim. Where are they going to come from? They're going to come from Pinchas, who wasn't a Kohen at that time because he was a grandchild of Aaron, but who will get that reward for stopping the plague triggered by the Midianites by killing Cosby and Zimri, which I'll be speaking about in length in Parshas Pinchas. And there's another reference. Why do we have to have a reference again to fire? Because the Aaron and his sons offered, Aaron and his two sons, none of you offered a strange fire. I will be going into that when we get to Parshas Korach. I'd like to wish everybody a good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom. And this Sunday night, Monday, for those in Kutzler, it's Sunday, Monday and Tuesday will be Shavuos. We'll get our new share portion for Torah for the coming year. May we all be Matzliach to get a good shefa share portion in Torah, Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and Hag Sameach.